Well, here we are. um, we got the podcast going. We're recording. We're streaming live for anyone that feels like tuning in on YouTube. We might check it out. I don't know. We don't know what's going on. No one knows what's going on, but we're here for this podcast now. I'm your friend Joseph Craven. I've got Will Caves and Alex Lebel here with me on this episode of You'll Never Talk Alone. I feel like the episode title rings true, even if the our basis for the episode title, the You'll Never Walk Alone, has not exactly rung true of the last 72 hours. What a bizarre storm of events that has gone on. We thought about trying to record an immediate reaction on Sunday evening when news of the Super League was coming out. We decided, no, we can't do it because what could we possibly add? We thought about recording on Monday after the Leeds match to discuss the players and Jurgen Klopp's body language and then language. We said, you know what? No, we kind of just need to see what happens. And then, of course, everything happened. So it seems like this is a time in which, for at least a moment, the wild and crazy Super League news cycle has ground to a halt to allow us to be able to sit down and discuss whatever it was that just happened. No real agenda, no real outline for what to even discuss on this episode. Boys, I think the three of us just need to get into it. How in the world, what happened? How in the world do we recover from this? Who do we turn to for hope in this situation? I don't even know where to begin, how to begin. Just the last 72-ish hours have just been so unbelievable that I don't know. Here we are. I'm gonna send it over to Will first of all because he showed up. He was the only one of the three of us that was on time for our scheduled recording. So I'm gonna turn it over to Will to begin with. But Will, just the maelstrom of chaos that has surrounded the Super League, and then of course our particular involvement. Where do you even begin in your journey to process what happened? Where do you even start?
It doesn't even feel real. Like, it happened so fast. You know, it was not even like a week. Like, it happened so fast. It's that, I mean, it's the whole time. And I feel like I could speak for myself and quite a lot of soccer football fans. What you just like are like, it's just this sense of dread. Like, everything is bad. It's all bad. And then it's fine. Like, magically, you know, they boo the team bus going into Leeds, and suddenly everything's fine. Like, we didn't even have to break any windows or anything. Like, didn't even have to burn down Boston. It wasn't even a big deal. But like, I don't know, the whole thing. Like, it is surreal, but it's also like, I can't really believe how badly they handled it. Right. Because like, okay, I don't agree with the Super League, but like, it does have its merits. Like, there are positives, right? But like, they botched this on an unbelievable level. It's so bad, and that's really what I can't get. That's what makes it feel unreal. Like, just not real. Is that like, this? Should they have really pushed and pressed forward? Like, what was the? Did you really like? Are you really going to make your players miss the Euros? Are you really going to make like there's just the fallout was like, I don't know. I'm not really saying much. I'm sorry, but like, it's just, I could not believe. I was flabbergasted the whole time at just like the stupidity of it all, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it was dumbfounding because to have such obvious dread expressed from all over on social media when there were just rumors that it might be announced on Sunday evening, right? You already had that going on. To not look at any of that and go, maybe this isn't a good sign. Maybe this isn't like, how can you be so oblivious? And how can so many be so oblivious? I mean, the answer,
smart people, like they're not dumb. They're rich for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. That's how they can be so blind, because the monetary benefit was so obvious to them that was, just blinding. But it just was so bizarre. And I think you're right. There could have been some good things to come out of it. I can't remember if it was Arlo White on social media or if it was the Men in Blazers or in the flurry of posts that we've all sent each other. But someone said, there's a lot of positive things that could be taken from American sports systems, but the Super League incorporated none of them. And that's where this immediate outrage really came from, and it just, how could they not see it? How could they not see it other than being blinded by profit margins and everything? But I mean, Alex, what about you? Where do you even begin? Where should we begin? Where did we begin this episode? Did we even start? I don't know.
Well, I heard rumors in the press that we were going to start the episode tonight at 9:30 CET. And I would also like to note that Zach and Andrew are not here because they have started their own super podcast.
Yes. So
they decided not to show up, and we've barred them from this competition.
Of course, yeah.
This is kind of a selfish interpretation of it, but I kind of feel like we've all gone through a little bit of like a fan identity crisis over the past 72 hours. It's like, and I think that was how we even started the conversation about all this when it first started emerging. It was like, look, I love this club and I love this team and this group of players and this manager, but like, if we're leading the charge on this, how do we in good conscience support this club still? And it like, it led to a lot of thinking and discussion about what makes a club in general. And like the ultimate realization that the people that caused this were just supposed to be like stewards of the clubs. They were the Denethors of Liverpool Football Club.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Absolutely, sir.
And then they set themselves on fire and jumped off the Citadel.
I mean, that's what I'm hoping happens to all the owners of all these teams, is that we take them to Minas Tirith, light them up, and send them on their way. But like, that was the thing. Like, I think we all watched the match on Monday because we're like, this is our team. These are our boys. This is our manager. And we want to see how they react to getting this blindsided to them. So like, just trying to understand and reconcile the really negative one aspect of the club with the greater good that is the club in general and just the concept of a club, even for someone who is not a local, even for someone who was not raised on this team from birth. We still feel that strong affinity and still had to come to terms with that and figure out how we felt about it. But the other thing, just like where to start, is just like, this is, in addition to all the stuff Will mentioned, is like the sheer gall to drop this pile of crap on world football and then send out your employees who know nothing about what you have done to be the de facto mouthpieces for your terrible plan. Like, that is just cowardice of the umpteenth degree.
And then to drop out at the first sign of trouble, like literally today.
It took, I'm sure this was months of planning, months of PR prep, although there were some rumors that they hired a PR agency like hours before they announced. But I mean, they clearly spent time negotiating with JP Morgan to get the money for this. And then to just drop within 48 hours is just pure insanity. Like, every twist and turn of this is just like, you couldn't make this up. It is just too ridiculous to be a real thing. And like, there's a lot of bad things that social media does, but social media did help and came through with dank memes and huge updates throughout this whole process.
Yes.
So kudos to the greater footballing community for that. But yeah, much like Will, I'm just like, I don't know what to make of this yet. I still don't understand. Like, where do we go from here? How do we face the people that are in charge of the club ever again? And like, no one's a good guy here. It's not like UEFA and the FAs of all these leagues are good. I mean, UEFA just passed terrible revisions to the Champions League at the same time. So like, it's like that South Park episode between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. Like that's what we're stuck with right now.
Yeah. Yeah. What you were just saying as well, Alex, like kind of being blindsided by things. I think for all of us, I think that was a great summation of like we all kind of, regardless of who it is that we're talking about, if it's Liverpool, if it's a college sports team we cheer for, if it's another sport that we cheer for, you know, whoever we cheer for, we always kind of have that wonder as fans in the back of our minds of what would this team have to do for me to stop being a fan, you know? And like for other things, it might be they sign Antonio Brown, and that's enough for me. If my team were to sign Antonio Brown, I wouldn't cheer for him. You know, it's that sort of thing. But for Liverpool, it would have taken a lot. Like there would have had to have been a whole lot. And this showed us that this was it. A complete betrayal of the fans' trust. A complete betrayal, what you just pointed out, Alex, of your employees who are your direct on-the-ground representatives of the club. You know, betraying them by throwing them under the bus like this. I mean, this was it. This was absolute. And, I mean, like that's, I think, where we all end up starting in our processing of this is it feels like, it felt like a betrayal. And even now that, like, apologies have been issued and like retractions have been made, yeah, I mean, like, we still have to deal with the betrayal and all. And so, like where do we go? Like Will, like what so where can we go?
So two things I'll respond. I liked your college football analogy, which if you, for those of you in Scandinavia that don't have college football, the like cheering for an institution is it's like that's why you're a college football fan, right? Like my entire family are Mississippi State fans. You know, like we've gone to games my whole life. Like that's the kind of institutional fandom that like these people from Liverpool and from, you know, Merseyside have with this club. But like, as Alex said, we didn't grow up
right
like that. You know, didn't grow up that way. And so like I've come into this a little late, but at the same time, I applied that same love, that institutional love to Liverpool, right? Like I have watched them since Rafa was manager, like from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. And it like this past weekend was the first time that I was like, okay, do I like where do I stand now? Do I like Liverpool or like I think I texted y'all this, like if Klopp walks, I'm done, right? Like that's kind of where I was. I don't know. It was tough. I don't really know where to go from there.
I mean, also full credit to the owners for dropping this 24 hours before one of our biggest games of the season.
Yeah.
Does that count as an injury? Injure your existence as a club?
You know, and for them to right. Well, also like it's a good way to not. You know, we're not. You obviously don't want to play in the Champions League, come hell or high water, because you're either going to not qualify or you're going to get us disqualified. But you know, what's interesting about it is like these guys had multiple opportunities to learn the culture of the club. Like they didn't just buy it; they've owned it for 10 years. Like they fired Kenny, who had just won a cup, and you know we really felt like some institutional change was coming. They tried. I'm probably going to get these out of chronological order, but they tried to trademark the Liverpool name. They tried to furlough staff at the beginning, and then this as well. Like I don't know. Like there's only so many apologies that you can like. Oh, we hear you. Well, obviously not. You know. And at this point, it is going to take an Mbappe-sized present to make me feel better.
Right. Yeah, and like, I don't know if I've ever felt more numb watching a Liverpool match than I did on Monday. which is so bizarre because it should have been one of the most important matches that we've had. I don't know if I've ever felt that numb before, and it was weird. It was not a feeling I ever wanted to experience, but it just is. We were left in limbo. We score a goal to go up. I can't celebrate. We, goal to go level. Really mourn. I just didn't feel anything. I was numb, and it sucked. It really sucked. And yeah, like, I mean, I'll say this much. I'll turn it back over to Alex to talk about more of this and where we go and all. But I can appreciate when someone actually does take the time to make a public apology, because I feel like in the sports world, that is like the opposite of what you're always told. Like, you're always told, if you want to be the king, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. Ric Flair. No, if you want to be like the king in sports, you have to carry this arrogance and ego with you. Like being a big basketball fan, it's like Michael Jordan is the guy, and you always admire how Michael Jordan was like, someone said something negative about me and I took it personally, and like I conquered them. And so like in sports, we're supposed to have this like arrogance in order to be on top. And so that's why, like, when someone does take the time to at least make a little bit more than just a written statement to be like, we screwed up and we realized that, I do appreciate the apology. But I was thinking about this afternoon. Accepting an apology does not mean that there can't also be accountability held, right? Like when we were kids, right? If like one of us got mad and like punched a sibling, like when I was younger and I just punched my younger brother in the face or something, yeah, I could immediately regret it. And it would not have been the first mistake that I made. And I could immediately go, oh yeah, that was bad and I apologize. And that apology could have been accepted. But I'm still going to get sent to my room. And I'm still going to get grounded. There still has to be accountability on the ownership. Like, exactly what you're saying, Will. At this point, it's been 10 years of them consistently not knowing how it works, kind of learning a bit, not knowing how it works, kind of learning a bit, not knowing how it works. And this is just the latest example of that. And at this point, it's like, I get it, and I do appreciate that you are apologizing and at least saying, wow, we screwed that up really bad. And I accept that as an apology, but you have to either move here or move to Liverpool and learn how Liverpool works and how the Premier League works, actually be on the ground and experience it and live in the culture, or you have to turn over all of your control to someone who does, and you're just the person cutting the checks at this point. That's it.
Right.
You cannot call the shots anymore. You've lost that.
Oh yeah, and so I think their saving grace is that there are not fans in the stadiums right now. That's the only way that they survive this, is that just by sheer luck that there's a pandemic, and that
is that the first time anyone has ever said that phrase? By the way, I think it is.
Thank goodness for COVID.
The cop would eviscerate them this weekend. Right. Yeah. But not to be insensitive to COVID, I do apologize. But no. You know what I'm saying? Like they would get just ripped apart for the rest of the season. But and they still might at some point. But that's really their only saving grace, is that there are no fans. But also, you've got to take into account that, like, you look at these other teams that were part of this project. I mean, you've got Madrid, yes, and you've got Barcelona. They fall into I don't know much about the Madrid fan base, but they seem fickle. But the Barcelona fan base, at least, like, it's similar to. I mean, it's similar in ways that it feels like a family to ours. And like, then you've got us and United, who, despite being our arch rivals, like there's like, that feels bigger than a club. But like, they are treating this like we're freaking Tottenham, and nobody nobody cares that Tottenham was in the Super League. We were all surprised, and like when they dropped out, they're like, "Oh, okay, whatever." Like, this isn't Tottenham, right? Like, you have to take every single extra step with Liverpool, and they just at every turn just fail to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, the only reason that Liverpool would ever be considered to be in something like this, one, because they drew up the plan, obviously, but two, because the heritage of this club, and they were riding those coattails all the way to the bank. Essentially, I mean, they've just been using the rich history and the success of the past, and like the narratives around the club with figures like Shankly and Fagan and that ethos, and just turning it into a brand. And this was the epitome of that. And I mean, like we've all talked about, they've messed up a bunch of times, and like we didn't even talk about the ticket hike where the fans walked out. And like,
I forgot one. Yeah, that's the other one.
And the whole, I mean, Project Big Picture, they were driving forces behind that. And I mean, yes, there were some elements of that might have helped, but they did try to sneak in the fact that like they get full control of the league. And it's just kind of like, there's, like you've both said, there's only so many times you can apologize before it sounds insincere, and it's absolutely insincere. Like the apology video was one of the most, I'm reading this off of a prompter because someone told me to apology. It was just like a throwaway, here you go, be appeased by this, and maybe you'll forgive me, but I actually don't care because I own your team kind of attitude. And I mean, I think the damage at this point is irreparable. I don't really know how they could ever come back from this. I mean, I think it was the chief sports writer at the Daily Mail was doing a thread, or it might have been like Simon Hughes in The Athletic, but they were saying like the next time John Henry would have come to Liverpool without this, he would have been a legend because of what he brought to this club. People would have like overlooked the other stuff. But then now he will never be able to show his face at the club again. No one will ever want to see him. And if he shows up, he's going to have to be probably heavily guarded because the fans will go after him because he's just dragged everything this club is about through the mud. And I don't know how you come back from that, honestly.
Oh yeah. Do y'all remember, this has been like 4 or 5 years ago when West Ham's fans like were throwing crap at their owner's box and stuff like that is not even beginning to touch on what our guys would do. It's just, you're right. It's he would have, like, they won us the league after 30 years. You literally like just sit down and shut up and don't do anything. Like they could have done nothing and it still would have been the best ownership we've ever had.
Yeah, they straight up ruined every bit of goodwill in less than 12 months, and it's astounding. And that's why I say, like, it would have to be something extreme that goes beyond just an apology. You have to prove it. That's how apologies work. That's how forgiveness works, right? You have to be able to say, yeah, I messed up, so I'm going to do better now, and be able to prove that in order for somebody to actually not just accept an apology, but also forgive you. And for us as fans to be able to forgive them, they have to be able to say, oh, we messed up, we screwed up, issue this apology, whatever, and then do something along the lines of stepping entirely out of the day-to-day decisions, or saying we don't get it, and so we're going to spend all of our time figuring it out and like understanding how, and finally catching up on the 10 years that we should have been doing this already. You know, it has to take something extreme, and I don't know if they're capable of that. I just don't know. And you know, Zach Osborne had texted us at some point in the week saying, you know, and I think this is kind of the sad truth of the way the business of the sport is right now. But, you know, he texted at some point, he's like, how can we feel like we have much faith in anyone else to have not done the same thing? You know, to have not any other businessman who takes over a club to not also try to do strictly business things, like try to capitalize on a brand. I mean, that's what the world's all about. You can't get onto social media as yourself without somebody talking about how are you using your personal brand for good today. And it's like, how am I a brand? I'm just a dude sitting in my chair. Like, let me just be. But that's, I mean, I don't know who we could trust to not try to do the same sort of thing, if given the opportunity to try to line their pockets with millions and millions of more dollars. You know, like it's a tricky thing. And because that's the weird thing is we, you know, Will, you kind of said at one point in the texting, like, you know, it is very much like the American owners and all. But even stupid Tottenham tried to get in on it too, and they're one of the few entirely English-owned clubs. So like no one's above the greed. Like how do we combat that? How do we? I don't know. That's like the kind of, it's not like super discouraging because like this hasn't been an issue for 100-something years probably, but like now that it is right now, and now that the sport is so much about the millions of dollars that are made through ad revenue, brand recognition, all of that, like, is this sort of thing inevitable? Is this what we're just going to work towards in another 5 to 10 years, and we just kind of have to live with it? Is what, I don't know. It's a little bit scary, I guess. I'm scared, guys. I'm nervous. I'm scared.
Yeah, and
please
to go
hold
back
me
to your point about the brand and like
right.
the representation and contrition. I mean, I'm still kind of hung up on the response when we did back out. I mean, we got like a 3-sentence press release, and then we got a 2-minute video. And if you want to talk about learning and understanding the club, and you omit the actions of Jordan Henderson and James Milner from your apology, you don't list them as like, we talked to the captain of this club who organized the team, who organized the league together to go against this, and we learned why what we did was so bad. But no, you thank Billy Hogan, the CEO, who sent out all your terrible emails to the staff and held a town hall where no one really got to talk, and where he just laid the smackdown of all this terrible information on these people. That's not contrition. That's not understanding what you did wrong. And it's just completely leaving out like a huge part of what makes this club so special. When you see someone organizing the team, and you see the team united, posting the same message, even people like Harvey Elliott, who's on loan, was posting the message like that. Like it's just a unifying force that is the club, and you just don't mention it at all. And you give Jurgen like a half-assed mention in your apology. It's just like, you still don't get it, do you? Like, you're just sad that you don't get money, and you're saying sorry because it would probably be the right thing to do, but you don't actually care. It's pissing me off just thinking about it. Like, you've totally screwed this up, and I don't know. I'm gonna sound like one of those angry Twitter people, but like, and I know we've talked about who would buy the club and can you trust anybody else, but like, let's take a chance with someone else, because these people don't deserve this club anymore. That's the main thing. Like, you've lost your privilege to be the owner of Liverpool Football Club after this.
Yeah, Alex, I hate to say it, but you are an angry Twitter user. It's just kind of who I've seen the official YNTA podcast tweets you've been sending out, man, and I'm about to impose a ban on you. I'm
Marauding Moreno 69 on Twitter. Still my Alberto Moreno Stan account.
Oh man, I'm glad. Yeah, no, I'm glad we could laugh, because I mean, you're right. Like, it's hard to feel like we can trust anyone that is financially backing the club at this point. You know, we feel like we can trust the players to be united in their front. We can trust Jurgen, to have been a man of his word, and to even like when he's having to try to prepare to fight for a spot in a competition that he is on the verge of never playing in again, or never coaching in again, even in the midst of that, and to have to be the front and center. Congratulations, the news broke, and you're the biggest name that we get to talk to about it. For him to still, at the very least, be able to say, my stance is the same now as it was in 2019, and just flat out say, you remember what I said in 2019 when I said it was a bad idea? I don't care that the people that are cutting my checks are fully behind this. My stance is the same. Like, we know we could trust all of them, but what do we do outside of becoming a not even just like the Bundesliga model, even just like the Brighton and Hove Albion model of having a local businessman who owns it and the local community who like fundraise to support and help build the stadium, all that. Like, what do we do besides trying to get the power back to locals, I don't know, because that's not exactly how the sport works a lot of times these days.
Well, we're beyond the point of no return with this. I mean, it didn't happen this time. It's going to happen at some point. But Liverpool, when they bought it, it was, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like 330 million ish when they bought it. And now it's like valued over like almost 2 billion with a B now. Like nobody has that kind of money. Like nobody's swooping in to buy the club. I mean, there are like a handful of people that have that kind of cash. And it's unfortunately, this is the bet that they've made, but we've all got to lie in it right now. And so, I mean, it's one thing to like raise hell, but at the same time, if you raise too much hell and FSG just like cut bait and move on and don't buy any more players and just like rake in the cat, I mean, it could get ugly real quick. And so you don't like, this one's going to sting, but I just don't know how we can't do anything. And it does, like, I think that's what made me feel the worst, honestly, was that like, if a manager goes off the rails or like, if a manager has like bad results or whatever, like they can get fired. If a player does something stupid or like it plays poorly for an extended period of time, he's going to get benched and possibly sold. Like there are consequences for everybody in this, but the owners. And when the owners screw up this bad, like, what do you do? Like I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, like the main people who are going to bear the brunt of this are the players. Like, and you heard Klopp say that after the match, and you heard Millie say it after the match. Like, we didn't do anything with this, and we show up and people are protesting the bus ride, and like they understood why people were doing it, but at the same time, like they already just had this bomb dropped on them, and now they've got all their fans mad at them because they're the only people that they can see. And like when we are trying to qualify for a competition that may or may not exist, it doesn't help with that. But like they're the only ones that are there, so of course they're going to be the ones that people yell at, people protest for. When they show up to the stadium, it's going to be anger, and it just sucks. Like you said, sorry to cut you off, Joseph.
No, that's great. All I was going to say is I'm trying to look at, of course, FSG was able to purchase the team when the Liverpool board voted to get Hicks and Gillette out. So it would have to be a similar situation. So I was just looking up to see who exactly was on the Liverpool board. And so you've got 3 FSG members, John Henry, Tom Werner, and Mike Gordon. And then it looks like, I'm trying to see if this is like the current updated members, or if anything has changed. But there are 4 like non-FSG members, Peter Moore being one of them. So who knows exactly where his
is he still on the board? I mean, like, because he's out, right? The CEO wouldn't Hogan have taken out? That doesn't matter. But
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out exactly if this is the current thing or if this is not. Oh wait, hold on. This might be a better resource. Let me pull up the better.
Billy Bean's on the board.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, sorry. It is Hogan who took his place. So Henry, Werner, Gordon, Hogan, and then Hughes, Egan, and King Kenny. So it kind of would have to be, if those other 4 non-FSG members try to put forth a vote that would kick them out, like would FSG listen? Because I think they still own enough percentage where they wouldn't probably have to. I don't know how that works exactly, but like, I don't know. It would have to be like a no confidence vote. It would have to get very businessy, which is of course where FSG excels. So what do we do about that? So it just, I mean, how do you hold them accountable? There has to be accountability. I mean, that's the word I keep coming back to, is that there has to be accountability for the ways they screwed up. But where does it come from? Where can it come from? I don't know. I just don't know. What do we do, Alex? What do we possibly do as just, as fans, but also as like, 3 three idiots sitting in America trying to make sense of how this ever could have happened. Because, okay, I'm sorry to keep rambling, but this is what's so funny to me is how badly these people wanted to do like an American sports or NFL model in Europe when so many people who are living here in America that look at European, like, you know, pyramid systems or like relegation systems, look at it and go, man, that would be fascinating if we had that in our major sports. Like, why in the world do we want their system and they want our system? It doesn't make sense. Anyway, Alex, where do we even go from here? What do we do?
I mean, first of all, we still just try to figure out what the hell just happened.
Right.
I don't think it's really going to sink in fully what happened, what went on, who's involved, who was driving what, how insane is Florentino Perez? Like, does he need some help or something? Because he's off the rails. But like, I don't know. The big thing is that we did learn that the fan voice is loud and powerful, and when people, even when they want to ignore it, they can't. So I think if we can, whatever we can do to still kind of drive positive change within the game, whether that be about the new Champions League reforms, the league reforms, the FA scheduling, and I mean a big one, like, and a lot of people have said it, and they're absolutely right. Like the racism issues, the discrimination issues within the sport. Like if we can mobilize like this against people doing this dumb thing, like we could definitely mobilize and drive change on something more positive and more. And this would have changed the sport, but like people's well-being and respect as human beings is way more important than any of this. So, I mean, we could absolutely try to work towards that. And from what I understand, like not only did they drop it on a Sunday morning before big matches for both Liverpool and Chelsea, but like I think this was supposed to be like a big kind of kick it out initiative weekend on Sky and like all the TV coverage, all the TV networks in the UK, and they just totally trampled all over that. And that's just like another level of like, what are you doing? Kind of thing. So I think that would be a good start. I mean, I'm probably not going to buy any more kits from the club shop and like sign up for all the stuff that they have on offer, because
I get them from China anyway, so that was
exactly. Well, so does the club shop, I'm pretty sure.
And I mean, finally, we can all just go support our favorite team in the world, Dinamo Zagreb. Like it's right. Time.
Exactly.
We've talked about it for long enough. Make them the number one. You'll never Zagreb alone. Here we are.
This is it. I mean, it is kind of funny. Like we've had to honestly, and I don't know if we said it much in like the full podcast group chat, or if it's been more so something like Alex and I have been texting back and forth about to each other. Have been like, I mean, if this goes through, what do we even do as like a fan made podcast? Yeah. Like we don't do this professionally, we're not making money here, we're not doing anything, we're not affiliated with anybody. It's just listen, Athletic. Looking at you, the Athletic, hire us.
Urban Outfitters, where you at?
Like what do we even do? What do we take a break? Like what do we do? And I almost feel like they're like, I mean, there has to be something that we as fans can do, especially as we as like American fans who have a different perspective. We don't have the full emotional, I grew up on Merseyside and like I live for this type of mentality, but we have the mentality of, hey, we fell in love with this game that we have no direct connection to, and you're even rooting for us, Like the game was beautiful enough, the team was beautiful enough that we from thousands of miles away fell in love with it, and you have honestly made us fell in love with it and then spend our Wednesday evenings doing this nonsense. We're talking into microphones for no reason. And you honestly made us consider whether we wanted to keep doing this. Like, that has to be a message that we can send. And I hope that it is a message that we're capable of sending. And I hope that there's enough voices there that say what's going to be different moving forward.
And like, I said this at the very beginning. There are merits to this idea, and
sure.
said this earlier, like I do feel like we will inevitably move in this direction, but like because this like a similar thing was how we got the Premier League and how we got the Champions League. I mean, I wasn't paying attention back when those two things happened, but it was perhaps not as like blatant and like outrageous, but that's why we have some of the institutions that we have right now. So like it's inevitable, right? But and it ultimately money wise and like it is good for the club. I mean, it would give us the ability to like we joke about Mbappe, but like why would somebody like the next Mbappe or whatever not want to play for a Super League club, assuming that they can still play for their national team and stuff like that? You know, it's like it is ultimately good for the club from a business standpoint, but at what cost? And it just is. There is something romantic about like Leicester's charge to the title, right?
Yeah.
There's something romantic about like those lower tier teams getting to the FA Cup semifinals and finals. There's something like it sucks for us, but like every time a Brighton or like Leeds doesn't really count, but like every time like Brighton or West Brom or like one of the lower tier teams like draws us or beats us, like that sucks for us as Liverpool fans, but like that's what it's about. And when you remove that from the equation, it just feels so hollow. And I just hope that we can move forward. If inevitably when we do, they can do it with that in mind, you know, and spirit of everything that we have while also benefiting the club and financially.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be great for ratings, but that doesn't mean that it makes for good storylines. You know?
But would it though? Like, I mean, yeah, it would, but like, I think Klopp said it, but it's so true. Like, I don't want to play Real Madrid 3 times a season. I mean,
yeah,
I hate Sergio Ramos. I don't want to look at him that much.
Right.
Like I enjoy, honestly, like our games against Salzburg, like Red Bull Salzburg were awesome last season. And like when we play those like Midtjylland and stuff, like that's cool. I enjoy that. Yeah. I mean, you know, obviously probably nobody else does, or like the vast majority like that's cool to me. You know, I like seeing those teams. It's fun.
Well, we don't sit around making a bunch of sports movies about the biggest teams in the world playing against each other.
Yes.
You know, we don't. We make sports movies about underdogs. We make sports movies about the unexpected happening. We make sports movies about the friggin' U.S. hockey team upsetting the Soviet Union in the 80s. Like, we make sports movies about the stuff
the USA upsetting Iceland in D2 the Mighty Ducks. I mean, it's all about those big victories.
Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking just like the movies, like Miracle. I wasn't thinking like documentaries, like Mighty Ducks. That's my bad. Yeah, yeah. Right. So like that, it's that type of stuff that you know we glorify it, and we glorify it because it doesn't happen much in real life. You know, like if we're college football fans, it's like wonderful. Who's going to be in the playoff this year? Bama, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma, or Oklahoma, Bama, Ohio State, and Clemson. Like, hooray. You know, like the top teams will always be the top teams most of the time, but you tune in because you want to see when the unexpected is going to happen. You tune in to March Madness because you want to see if Maryland, Baltimore County is going to upset the number 1 team in the country. You know, like you tune in for that stuff.
Yeah.
So
the first ever college football like playoff rankings, Mississippi State is like that doesn't happen if they don't, if they're not in the it's terrible.
You have to embrace the aspect of sports and competition that allows for anything to happen and for anyone to succeed on any given match day. You have to accept that and embrace that and allow for it. Right now, very few sports have that in general. I mean, like, it's amazing to us. It took a pandemic year and like no off season for us to have West Ham and Leicester as like two predominant Premier League teams, right? You know, like it took that. It takes, I don't know, it takes a lot for us to break down the rich getting richer mentality that is really prevalent in all of athletics in general right now. But I think that we have to fight against it in some way. You know, we have to. We have to be willing, as fans of one of the biggest teams in the world, right? We have to be willing to say that we are okay with the possibility of a freaking late equalizer from Leeds to ruin our Monday afternoon. You know, we have to be okay with that because that's the beauty of sports.
Well, that wasn't what ruined my Monday afternoon.
Exactly, but like that should have been it. That should have been it.
Right.
But we have to be okay with that. We don't fall in love with sports just because we watch, like, I don't know, Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin destroy in the 90s. It's like, oh, so we're all Cowboys fans for the rest of our lives. No, you know, like, you don't fall in love with it just because that. You fall in love because you love it when they're on top and somebody upsets them. Like that's just kind of what we do. And man, we're just trying. The sports world itself is trying to move more and more away from that.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at most of the teams that were...
I wish I had more of a point to make. I think that was just me lamenting, like me crying over here about sports. I wish I had a point to make, though. Sorry, Alex.
You'll never whine alone.
Yeah. No, your tears were worth it. And I mean, you look at the teams that were supposed to be involved in this whole thing, and I think all of them but two or three dropped points this week. And I mean, I'm sure having their bosses spring this on them probably didn't help, but like, no one deserves anything. Yeah, the environment that brought this about has led to some kind of monopolies in some of the other leagues, but I mean, you look at Ligue 1 with PSG, who didn't join this, but is still like a state-backed club. They might not win Ligue 1 this year. I mean, you look at it in Portugal, smaller league, but like Sporting is going to win because they're riding academy stars and they're not the big spenders like Benfica or like the ones who have. I mean, they're not as financially powerful as they have been, but Porto, who knocked Juventus out of the Champions League, and I mean, got to the last 8 and scored an incredible bicycle kick. You look at Germany, yeah, Bayern is winning again, but you look at the teams that are in there and you look at their budgets, and no one should even be remotely close except for maybe Leipzig, and they like hamstring themselves by pretty much only buying under 24 players. Like you get these stories and you get these things and you look at that and like no one deserves anything. Like you have to earn it. That's the whole point of sports, is that you have to earn it, because if you don't earn it, then you will lose and someone will beat you. I mean, that happened with Leicester. Sevilla could come back and join the La Liga title race from the 3 that tried to break away. So, I mean, it's just, you don't get to do that just because you're a big team, because big teams don't always win. And that's the whole point of the sport.
Well, and you even like stretch the analogy a little further to just the Champions League. I mean, go back 2 years, Ajax was in the semifinal.
Yeah.
It's Tottenham. Lads, it's Tottenham, right? Tottenham got to the final. The year before, we had no business. And we got to the final. Yeah. I mean, had this happened 4 years ago, is Liverpool in it? Maybe not.
Yeah.
And probably not. I mean, at that point, probably not. And so, I don't know. I agree with you, Alex. It's just like you lose the romance of some of these stories, and it just is. It's a cold, heartless place without stuff like that, and without the ability to watch an underdog come back. Like if there is no underdog, then I mean, I guess there's always Arsenal. But if there is no underdog, then there is no story, right? I mean, it's just two teams playing against each other.
Yeah, and how do you fire Mourinho from a Super League?
Right. Right. Oh man, where is that idiot gonna be next year? That's what I want to know. Yeah, I own this, and if you're just listening to the podcast, I guess you'll have to go to the YouTube channel if you want to actually see, what I'm holding up. But I went out and I found and bought this as a piece of memorabilia. This is a game program from the Champions League final against Tottenham. In Madrid. This is the actual game program, and I went out and got it, right? Because I wanted the memorabilia, not because I think that it's valuable or anything, but it's valuable to me because I'm a fan, because I got to watch that match with y'all and hang out and enjoy it. It means something. And it's bizarre to me to think that we came so very close to never having that be a thing ever again. It's just bizarre. Just bizarre. Liverpool plays Newcastle on Saturday in the morning. I don't want to talk about it. I think I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys I'm going to sleep through this one. I don't have it in me. I'm just letting you know now. I don't care that we're quote unquote supposed to come back and record an episode a week from today, talking about what happened over the weekend, blah, blah. I'm going to sleep through this one. After all this, I don't want to deal with it. And I can't deal with it. I'm going to turn it over to you guys. If you got some closing thoughts as we round out this episode. Will, do you have anything else that you want to add before we wrap things up entirely?
No one listens to the pod except for Ox, but we everybody's touched on it, so it doesn't really matter. But the way that the players handled themselves, specifically Henderson, but I'll rope Klopp into that too. Taking a stand, or at least speaking out. I mean, I don't know if I would call it taking a stand because there's not much they can do, but
right.
Speaking out before it was dead. I mean, at that point, sure, the writing was on the wall, but I already loved this team, and not necessarily, and I don't mean LFC, but specifically this group of players and this manager. I already loved them so much, but it cannot be said enough, at least from my point of view, how much that meant to know that not these, because they're the ones that are going to be the money hungry ones. It's the owners, and then it's going to be the superstars, the players that get that money, and they get those big bumper contracts and stuff. Even they didn't want it. And that meant a lot to me. It just meant a lot. It sounds dumb for me to say that, but it was, I was okay, this is awesome to see them at least speaking. And I don't follow a lot of other players, but I do follow some, and you didn't see that across the board necessarily. And so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'll end on that.
I mean, of course, the perfect way to cap off this week is with a 6:30 a.m. game. as if we as fans have not been through enough. I know you're going to sleep through it. I'm sure I'm going to wake up because I can't help myself because it's just this club this team, especially like Will said, this group of players, this manager, they're such a part of me at this point that I can't ignore them. But I will say I look forward to the days when Billy Bean and LeBron are signing Mbappe, handing out awesome. It's just going to be a great time when they take over. And I mean, I think I texted you all this. This will be my closing thought. But we should have seen this coming because we all watch Moneyball. We remember that scene when Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill didn't tell anyone and formed their own league. So we absolutely should have known this was coming because we're a Moneyball club.
Yep. Where they took the A's and removed them from MLB without telling anyone. Yeah. It's a good. Oh man. Well, I don't know. It sucks to have to talk about any of this, and so it sucks to have to deal with having to I don't know, struggle through any of this, to make sense of it, to figure out. I mean, we just spent almost an hour trying to figure out where we go from here, and I feel confident that none of us here on the podcast have any clue of what we do now, where we go, what happens next. And you know, we will continue to support the club the best we can, because I think that we all kind of understand that the club is bigger than the people who might own it right now, and so we can do all of that. I probably won't sleep through the entire Newcastle match. I'm sure my dogs will jump on me in the bed and kick me in the crotch like at halftime and wake me up. So I'm sure I'll watch for it. But yeah, it's we have to do. But I think my point is that it's our responsibility as fans who, you know, support and have at least an emotional stake, if not a monetary stake in the club, to do what we can to try to push the club to be better and do better. And so hopefully this little podcast episode is one of the things that we can do. I don't know. We'll find out. But there's a lot more. I'm sure the ramifications of all of this are going to be, I mean, they're going to be coming for a while. I mean, just look at what happened over at United with Woodward stepping down and everything.
Which is like a good thing, but also terrifying. By the way, that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe they'll be good again. Oh crap!
Yeah, it's like we can laugh at them, and then we're like, oh no, But anyway, we will continue to do all that we can as supporters and fans, and I think that ultimately the best thing that we can do is to send over to Andrew Ainsworth to sign us out for this episode. Andrew, take it away. I hate myself.
I hoped you were going in that direction.
All right, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll catch you next time on You'll Never Talk Alone. I guess pay attention to our Twitter feed so you know when there is going to be a next time, because I don't know. If any other news breaks, our heads might explode. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.